So, hello and namaste from Mumbai. I am talking to you about another very interesting remedy. And one of my focus has been to trying to understand inner patterns of lesser known remedies, something that excites me a lot. And especially when more well known polycrest remedy fail, is when normally we think about these lesser known remedies. We talk today about an interesting remedy. We talk about Phytolacca decandra. Phytolacca has a very beautiful indication, and the main indication is actually third line of Allen's keynote, where fourth line of Allen's keynote actually, which writes that it occupies a position between bryonia and rose stalks, cures when these fail, though apparently well indicated. So there are certain symptoms like rose toxicodendron, and certain symptoms like bryonia, and that's what Allen writes in the first line, that the diathesis, the constitution, has a rheumatic diathesis. So there is an action on tissues, fibrous periosteal tissue. So this is somewhere a very important, where they want to move, but movement aggravates. So this is the dichotomy of it. It's a very, very, you can say, important remedy, typically for rainy weather. These are very well-known keynotes actually, more or less. I really like the way Boger explains it in the first line. He explains it in the first line very beautifully as a remedy of long and deep action. Boger writes this in very few remedies, and then he writes in capital, sore heartache all over, sudden. So this is one of the few remedies which has a acute and a chronic kind of a acting kind of a pattern. What do we know about this remedy? Now let's try to understand some deeper patterns about this remedy, which are worth studying, explaining, and whatever I can share about it, I'll try to share. The first thing that is very, very interesting in one of the acute patterns of Phytolacca, and let's try to talk about different layers of Phytolacca and what different patterns of Phytolacca, and one of the very important patterns of Phytolacca can be seen in the rubric, and you can see this in Kent repertory. Shameless exposes the person, naked desire to be, and connecting to it another rubric, indifference exposure to her person, indifference to surroundings. So somewhere what you will see about Phytolacca is this kind of pattern of a little shamelessness, indifference, and exposing the problems very quickly, openly to the physician or to people in and around. This can be understood. Naked desire to be is directly wants to be naked, but it also shows a kind of indifference towards their problem, because what is written is very beautiful actually in Nair repertory, which is actually built on herring guiding symptoms. And what's written, very interesting, is written, and you have to read these rubrics together. Indifference exposure to person, indifference to her surroundings, and very beautifully, devoid of shame. Nair repertory, single rubrics. I'm telling you all single drug rubrics. It's very interesting. But let's try to understand it further. And it writes indifference to her surrounding in sore throat. And then it's written motion sad in sore throat, and then it required desired wish to be killed in sore throat. So we are talking about cases which have very deep pathological throat related pathology. We could think about cases of throat cancer, we can think about cases of breast cancer, we can think about very deep autoimmune disorders where there is so much of pain. Now they just say, okay, just kill me, just do this to me now, let me just get rid of it. That's the pattern. This is not the hyoscyamus sexuality, because nowhere in Phytolacca there is a concomitant pattern of amorousness. the lewdness that is there in Eczema. So this is where we need to understand connection of patterns. Mania with chills at night, single remedy, okay? Phytolacca. Depressed in syphilis, only 2 remedies. Depressed in worse in rheumatism, in rain. So death longing for in mastitis, single remedy. Death longing for vomiting of blood and slime in. So these are all single drug rubrics of Nair repertory which I am reading out to you. So this is a very interesting kind of pattern that you will see about Phytolacca. What are some more patterns which I want to talk to you about? Let's see. Held desire to be held. Okay. Connected to this. Attention seeking, attended desire to be. Very interesting. So they are also kind of people who want attention, who want to be held. So this is another kind of clinging kind of nature which is also there in Phytolacca. Again, something we normally don't directly connect Phytolacca with. In much later stages of Phytolacca, you will see a lot of moaning constant, gasping for air, moaning from pain. And then there is a very interesting pattern that Allen speak about. They can be by nature very rigid. Rigidity, adjust to any circumstance, will not. So they are by nature syphilitic, very, very rigid. And that's where in much later stage there is suicidal disposition, even listening to music, drowning with knife, tears oneself, wants to. Vulnerable when alone. And there's another rubric, whimpering. Whimpering is kind of complaining, moaning and crying as a last stage of pain. So, and that's why it's a very death-like syphilitic remedy, is Phytolacca decandra. Very interesting remedy, which I think today's time may require a remedy like that, which may be very useful. One of the important ameliorations is orange juice and whiskey and coffee. It's a very important part. It has an action on kidney, so albuminuria is important. It's one of the main remedies for breast mastitis, breast tumors, bone tumors. Clark gives single remedy, and that's why Dr. Sarkar uses this remedy for along with mesareum, Hecla lava and mercury for bone metastasis. Eustachian tube affection, Clark gives. Gonorrheal rheumatism and hearing altered, fatty liver, panophthalmitis, Clark gives one. Remember, Hepar sulf is given by Phatak. You must have seen one of the cases by that. Throat affection, very deep throat affections, and so it's definitely one of the lesser known remedies that you will think about. Burnett shows a very beautiful case of a very deep fistula that he once treated with Phytolacca, and he also explains a very, very beautiful case of angina pectoris treated with Phytolacca. So this is a little bit about Phytolacca. The last thing I want to tell you is electric shock-like pains and rapidly shifting pain. This will be a very important concomitant for me in Phytolacca. I think that's about it about Phytolacca. With this, I think most of the patterns of Phytolacca you will see.